Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Done Radio Hour. This week we have a new Meet the Cast, our last of our one-on-one series, When Wendy Met Keith. Not quite sure what we're going to do with Meet the Cast next, other than we do have a new narrator that will get his own solo episode. But if you have any suggestions, if you like this and want us to redraw a new set of pairings or anything else you'd like us to hear, please contact Jerome at IABDpresents.com and I'll be happy to take a look at it. Before the episode, I want to let you know that you can support us at patreon.com/IABD. We have exclusive stuff pretty much every week. We're trying to hit a $100 goal this year, which will only pay for our regular monthly costs of website hosting, podcast hosting, and the bank usage fees. That comes up to $102 right there without taking into account, printers and ink and paper and stuff for scripts and all of the other things that pop up, domain registration, new equipment if things break. So please go to patreon.com/IABD and help support us. We want to thank Circle 270 Media, which this podcast is a part of, and we want to thank our parent network, IABD Presents, found at IABDpresents.com with podcast, written work, video series, and more. Now enjoy this special Meet the Cast episode.
I'm going to leave you two alone. You got about 50 minutes to ask yourselves whatever you want to ask. Enjoy, and I'll be back to save the recording at the end.
Okay. So, geez, I thought he was at least going to moderate it or something.
I know. How you doing, Keith?
A little frantic, because of, the stress stream earlier this morning, and of course this now.
I saw about your dream.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's not the first time I've dreamt about, being on stage and forgetting lines and so on. It's the first time I think it's happened that I've actually known there was a name for it.
Right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So, some of my questions have to do with the quarantine and the pandemic. Because I wrote them the last time we were supposed to do the interview, so some of them might not be as appropriate now, but I'm still going to ask them.
Have they already been answered in a sense?
I don't know, maybe. I didn't read through all of them before I hopped on here, so who knows? I don't even remember what I wrote, so we'll see. If the world runs out of toilet paper, what do you plan to wipe your butt with?
Wow. Napkins? Perhaps. I think the standard stand-in is like facial tissue.
Yeah.
Kleenex.
Yeah. So, I'll let you go first, or me. That was kind of a silly question.
I was wondering about your musical background. I would start with that, especially before going into getting into IABD. I'm stammering all over the place now.
Well, I guess I've always liked music. I did some really small performances way back in my elementary school years and kept up with it through middle school and high school. So I was in a lot of musicals and plays. I also, I was in the choirs as well at school, and I played the clarinet. I went to Capitol, so I played the clarinet in Wind Symphony at Capitol too, but I can also play the flute and the saxophone. Nathan will tell you that I'm not going to tell you what Nathan would say. But
it's funny you should say that, because that's one of my other follow-up questions.
Yeah. I mean, I was really good on the clarinet before I stopped playing out of college, so I enjoy music and singing. I'm in the praise team at our church right now, so I still sing at church and play the handbells. Fun.
That's more than I expected. I don't know what I expected, actually. It's just, I remember, like, one of my favorite memories, of course, is when we were at Pack Rat and you had to do the Daniel Kravitz theme a cappella.
Oh.
And we were all very impressed by that.
Oh, and I was a little mortified, but it worked out. I had fun.
I'd expected there was at least some musical theater or something, but that's a lot. Since you bring up Nathan, that was my other thing that I wondered about, really.
Yeah.
What your relationship to him was before getting to the show.
I mean, prior to the show, he will tell you that he's not my BFF. But we are best friends. We've been really good friends since high school. I think that's probably when we started really hanging out a lot. And outside of high school, through college, we spent a lot of evenings at Walmart with our friend John. Like 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning, we would just spend at Walmart. I don't even remember seeing Walmart during the daytime, but I mean, we did other things like we played tennis and we played video games and board games and card games. And so we're pretty good friends. I think he and Jimmy and Nick were the reasons why I joined the radio show. I had a pretty good relationship with all of them. Jimmy was like, "Hey, I wrote this part. Do you want it?" I was, yeah, sure. So I had a pretty good relationship with all of them before the radio show.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you showed up and you're like, "Oh man." you had a good idea what you're getting into.
Right.
Especially with the Daniel Kravitz sketch itself. I mean, you essentially co-starring with Nathan for that.
Yeah, I think Jimmy put me with him because I'm the only one that could put up with his crap for as long as we have. Yep. But I love Nathan to death. I think it takes a special person to be friends with a guy like Nathan. He's a special.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was unlike you and a lot of the other radio show people where I went to the first practice and I already knew a fraction of the people, where all of you were in there for the first time not knowing anybody. I can't imagine what that was like. Oh
man, I don't know. It's still hard to put myself in that mindset, as far as I suppose trepidation would be the word. You don't know. I mean, it was also probably the first thing I had done for just any sort of performance or acting since like college. I mean, anything of this. I mean,
yeah,
which is longer than people might expect from just listening to this. But yeah, decades or something. It was just
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, certainly the first thing I was really trying to do with voice acting, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd been, going to a few seminars here and there, or researching what it would take to get started in it. And what I just happened to run across this audition within like maybe a day or two of it being due.
Wow.
And tried it, and yeah.
Amazing. So, I mean,
it's it was scary in the sense of not knowing how serious everyone was going to be there, or what I think Dallas mentioned, it's some guy's house, and you're just like,
yeah, that's so cool though. And I mean, I don't know you outside of the radio show, but one of my questions that I wrote down was, what do you do for a living? Because you have a voice. I hope you're doing something with your voice for a living, because I mean, that's what you should be doing. That's for sure.
I'm not sure I would call it a living at this point yet, but I'm really not doing anything else other than recording audiobooks at the moment. So there's that.
Well, that's amazing.
And, other random things come up every now and then as well, as far as, some narration for something or other. I mean, they have, those pay-to-play audition sites where you can submit something or they need a commercial for blah, blah, blah. And nothing ever pans out there. So those have lapsed at the moment. But
yeah,
for this year, I've been spending like the last few months recording and editing I think the 9th audiobook I've done.
Wow. That's really neat.
Thanks. And it seems like it's going to be the start of a series. So
even better.
That could be interesting.
Yeah. It's so cool. I forgot to mention that way back. I don't even know when it was, but Nick, at the very beginning of his, I guess, podcasts, he had the good, the bad, and the geeky. I was a part of that. So I kind of called in with a telephone to his radio show when it was just Nick, Jimmy, Nate, and I was a guest star every now and then. That was pretty fun. I wonder if he can dig up old episodes of that, because that would be interesting to listen to.
Well, and theoretically, they should exist, right? Somewhere.
Should, right?
I believe that's how Samantha got into it as well. I do kind of miss those. I miss the Pack Rat shows too, in a way, but just it was certainly better for performing to be in a theater environment, better for commuting. I don't know if you live out by Hilliard, but I mean, if you don't, it's on the opposite side of the city for me.
Yeah, I live in West Jeff, so it's
It's probably bad either way.
It's not stellar, but it's not that bad of a drive.
But yeah, there was something about the environment there that was nice. I mean, even with
it always seemed like there was a packed house at Pack Rat. I don't know. Or maybe it's because they didn't put out that many chairs. So, Keith, what else do you do for hobbies aside from voice acting and things like that?
Not nearly enough at the moment. I guess I sort of play bass and guitar.
Yeah?
More bass than guitar, really. Just stuff at home, really. Just the video game version of that, I would say. I mean, like Rocksmith. I don't know if you've ever heard of that game. But just
I've heard of Rock Band.
Yeah, it's like that, but with real instruments.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a video game?
Especially, yeah, it's pretty useful, actually, just for learning how to do it. Bass, though, I'm downplaying that a lot, but I was actually playing that quite a bit before my life changed for the second or third or whatever, how many times. I used to play out at bars and so forth in a couple of different bands. Starting around 2000, 2001, from around there.
Yeah.
And for another 5-6 years, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can pick up a lot of instruments and play them, but let me tell you, I cannot play a guitar for the life of me, and definitely not a bass. Some ukulele. Nathan bought me and my husband Aaron a ukulele for Christmas a couple years ago, and he got me a beginner book. I started to learn how to play the ukulele, but props to you, because I find that like one of the hardest. Aside from the piano, the guitar is right up there with it.
Yeah, I mean, the guitar has not been. I wouldn't say that I'm like shredding or anything on it right now, but the bass I did teach myself more or less. It's when you say you teach yourself something, you really are getting tips from everyone else, or you're learning from other examples you see. But I mean, it was all by ear essentially, and it shows in some cases. I mean, there's some advantages to teaching yourself things like that, but otherwise, it's like you just a lot of the fundamentals are just. It's like reinventing the wheel and not necessarily doing a good job of it.
Right. Well, I'd love to hear you play sometime. You should bring it to a show if we ever get back to the theater.
Yeah, if real life ever happens.
Yeah.
It might amuse some of the other musicians in the band.
Oh.
In the troupe.
Have you ever met anybody famous?
I guess it depends on what you mean by met. And famous to what extent? I mean, I've met some voice actors, during conventions and so on, leading up to me trying to do all this stuff. Probably one of the most famous, and this was a weird encounter too, because it was one of the times that Marianne and I went to Las Vegas, just randomly during the summer. We went twice, and one of the times we were there just looking for things to do, we saw that there was this startup convention. I guess like an anime convention or something like that. And it was just a small thing. And Steve Bloom happened to be there signing autographs and doing panels and questions and answers and stuff. Got to ask him a few things. If you don't know who that is, he was probably most famously the voice of Spike in Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, yeah.
And lots of other things since then. One of my favorites being the main villain in Legend of Korra.
Wow.
And some things on Transformers, the Transformers Prime, etc. Saw a few pro wrestlers in passing back at those Arnold conventions.
Yeah.
Batista once told me I had cool hair.
No.
Yeah. This is way before Guardians of the Galaxy, before he was like,
Yeah.
That, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you do have some pretty cool hair.
Back then, I guess, I don't know, it was actually probably similar to this at the moment.
Yeah. It's getting long. That's for sure.
I really want to redo it. Well, redoing it entails taking it all apart and putting it back together, essentially. That
Oh,
takes several days
really?
overall. It's a lot of it is because I get easily distracted too. But
Yeah.
and I've told myself that I can't do it again until I finish the audiobook I'm recording right now, because it's been quite a while
Oh man.
this year since I've been recording. The pandemic, since you mentioned it, I don't know if the listeners will remember that thing that is still happening right now.
Right.
I'd already been sick around February or March. Was it the thing? Who knows?
Right.
Not really important at the moment, I suppose. I don't feel like I'm actively dying. Let me back up a bit. When you're doing these audiobooks, one of the places you get to them is if you go to ACX, that's a portal between Amazon and Audible. Authors who were published through Amazon can typically just automatically just move their stuff over there and put it up for people to audition and send in recordings to say reading the excerpts or whatever, and they evaluate and say, yeah, sure, let's do this. I got the sickest I'd been in a while. Well, since the last book, which just coincidentally seemed to happen last year, I'd already been isolated quite a bit, like going into March, and then out briefly, and then things locked down around April or so forth. And just that's how I rediscovered, I should say, that I have chronic bronchitis.
Wow.
So there were some clues to that throughout my life. First clue was when I was a child and the doctor said that I had it. And I just completely forgot, I guess. Like, I guess that just went away. But no, it was resurfacing in various points, including last year when I was coughing for several months after being sick. And the same thing happened this year. So that slowed down my progress quite a bit as far as recording. And also, my wife, Marianne, who certainly, but again, the listeners might not.
Yeah.
She's going to be in the show with us later. She was fortunate enough to have a very good job now, a decent one with a bank that I'm not going to name. But they've been pretty good about letting their employees teleconference, essentially. I mean, they were already kind of experimenting with how what the load was going to be like for them doing that, moving some of their computers home and trying it out. And once the order came down, they were just like, okay, full time, that's what it's going to be like. And so she's been home all the time for the last several months, which is good. And it's but it's not what I was used to as far as setting my recording time. And it's not necessarily like she's like really loud or obtrusive or anything. It's just that there's a rhythm that I can't quite establish. You get self-conscious, and sometimes you do. I mean, a person needs to be at home and they need to walk around like referring to her. Of course, can't expect her to just at the drop of a hat just stay still and quiet for hours at a time. That's just not how it works. So but I still find spaces to do it. It's just an adjustment. Recording at home is difficult anyway because I'm still at the mercy of whatever the neighbors decide to do at any given moment, whatever the traffic seems to be like, whatever the weather is doing. So it's not like full on professionally soundproofed.
Right. And with all of that, mix in a couple kids. That's
oh God. See, no, no.
I know. My husband and I, that praise team that I talked about, for a couple weeks, we had to record our songs at home. So we would have like a click track in our ear. Like my husband would lay down like the bass track for the song, and then he'd send it to all of the people in the praise team, so they'd listen to that track and sing their part along with it. And then my husband would gather all the parts and then mix them all together with an audio editing program. And that was a nightmare, being able just to get 3 minutes of uninterrupted time to record a song, and then have to do it perfectly. Once you get the kids in bed or in a different room where they're not screaming, and then you can record that song. So I'm feeling you on that. It's rough. A couple weeks ago, I sang a solo on this song and totally screwed up. Like, I don't even know seconds of it, but Aaron went in, and my husband is Aaron. He went in and deleted the audio from my major terrible. I mean, it was really bad. So for the people at home listening to our church service, there's about 3 seconds that he took out. So there's like no audio at all.
Well, maybe that's for the best, I guess, in those circumstances.
It really is for the best.
So, I guess there was a glitch. Oh, well.
Yep.
That's 3 seconds.
It's over now. Oh, gosh. Hobbies. You mentioned anime. I'm guessing you like to watch anime? Yeah,
I mean, I like to watch a lot of things, actually, and probably too much, and it gets to be, especially when you're trying not to procrastinate with things.
True story.
But, like long-term projects. So, I mean, for Radio Hour, and I mean, your main characters, your bigger characters we know of certainly right now, Abby.
The Wholesome Honey?
Yes, I was like, what I want to say the homemaker, no. Wholesome Honey. Yeah, I mean, they seem to be variations of you to some extent. I don't know if you've ever really had to try to think of how to just do something completely out there, or have you tried to pitch anything to Jimmy, or have you ever had any ideas that you really wanted to do, or have you thought of something you want to do that's radically different than you?
I mean, I enjoy acting and singing, and I would do anything Jimmy asks me to do, and he knows that. But I might be the only actor in the troupe that has never auditioned for anything.
Oh, yeah.
and it's not like I'm not tooting a horn or anything. Like I just sit back, and Jimmy knows that I'm busy. It seems like every character Jimmy's given me has kind of been in my wheelhouse. So I really haven't had to stretch, and maybe that's why he's like, well, this character is something that Wendy could do. So I'll let her do it if she wants. But well, I would love to read through those scripts and try out something that I've never done, but for the sake of my life and my craziness that I'm living, I do what I can, and Jimmy gives me some good stuff, and I love him to death for it. So I'll work hard. No,
that all makes perfect sense. I know that there are certain months that go by where I'm like, can I do this? Should I really be trying to add on more things right now?
I don't know. I feel like you and the majority of the troupe, they're so versatile. Like, you guys could do literally anything Jimmy writes. Like, you could make it work for any part. And I think that's the beauty of the troupe that we're in. Like, we're all so versatile. We work so well with each other. I'm not sure if I'm very versatile. I know I will try very hard to do whatever Jimmy wants me to do, but like you and Shane and Kristen and Nate and Nick and Sam and everybody who I didn't mention, like,
them too, kind of.
It is. Let's go through the whole list.
Those omissions aren't purposeful.
Right?
Sorry,
absolutely not. But you know what I mean? Like, everybody blows me away every month. It's crazy how great everybody is. And I think Jimmy probably knows that. He's like, man, I could just write this part, and I know I'll have all these auditions, and he has a really hard job. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, to pick somebody, because everybody could do it, I think. I think so.
I'm sure that some parts are probably more contentious than others as far as people wanting to do them. Do you have like a dream type of part you would want to try to do? I guess like some space alien or something, or I don't know.
I honestly love playing Abby and the Wholesome Honey. I feel like I could act the death out of those parts. And because I mean, there is a part of me that believes women should be in the kitchen. So
oh no.
Terrible, right? No,
we're gonna get some laughs now.
I'm only this much serious. I enjoy making pies, I really do. But
no, there's somewhere along the way, just I suppose a general commentary on social justice, for lack of a better word, or those types of societal improvements. We have to be careful not to stigmatize, certain kinds of choices, especially when it comes to feminism. Right. Me saying this as a man, certainly. I mean, but you know what I'm saying. Just there shouldn't be anything wrong with choosing to do whatever you want to do, even if it's a a traditional role of some sort.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. So what would you be your perfect dream acting job? What would you want to do?
Nope, I've already done them all now.
Done 'em all.
I don't know if I would call it a perfect dream thing necessarily, but I do sometimes want to be. I tend to be better at the straight man roles, and I get that, and that's not something that is necessarily. That's not nothing to sneeze at. I guess that's not just something that's disposable.
Yeah.
However, it is sometimes better to have the other kinds of laugh lines as well.
Yeah.
To be the one who's doing the not even necessarily the crazy voice, but that some kind of that offbeat character of some sort, and. Yes, Jimmy made a comment about Alfredo, and yes, that is an example of something that is, branching out. It's not. I'm not saying that I never get to do anything that is strange or out of the ordinary, but there are certain kinds of. I can't even think of a good example, like a meow meow type or something like that. That's also kind of strenuous too. It's hard to find a good voice like that and hold on to it. And not have it just destroy your voice or do something else. And even Alfredo is difficult sometimes. It's something that I actually have to sometimes think through how to say what I'm going to say to get there. I'm not like great at all kinds of accents, and that is certainly one of the ones that is kind of further out, and which is I guess is why it's a little funnier, but it's also difficult. I
mean, it just comes out so effortlessly.
Oh God, no!
You hold on to that list for so long.
Oh, it's
you like never mess up on it.
That is not true. That is not true. I mean, I feel just but thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
I had a thought pop into my head. I would really enjoy to play a princess. I like playing obnoxious princesses.
Yes.
And I kind of like the way that Jimmy's been writing Abby. I'm kind of going over to the dark side. It's kind of it's kind of refreshing to play somebody a little bit evil when I've been like Flowers and Sunshine for so long.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that too.
Well, yeah, even the Wholesome Honey, which I think one of the delightful things about that character and the way you're playing it is still sort of Flowers and Sunshine, but it is it is just saying some really just evil things under that voice. But the Abby character has started to branch into the point, or she's becoming more intense, like overtly intense too. So yeah.
And that's definitely not the way that I am on.
Really?
I don't know.
Interesting.
Right. So I enjoy.
Not even with the kids, you haven't been pushed to have to use that voice or something to.
Oh, I've used that voice. I practice them. It was really fun writing some of these questions down that I wanted to prompt myself with, because I literally don't know anything about you outside of radio show. Like, it was really.
I mean, same, obviously. Well, I mean, there's like the little legends I knew of you. You knew some of these people before, and that's pretty much it, right? I had some inkling that you had some musical background, as I was saying. Which again, just you are a great singer.
Oh, well, thank you. Gosh.
Well, I guess one of the hobbies I didn't mention, and now that we talk about it, is singing. I guess to some karaoke and so forth. That's something that I started doing more and more frequently over the last 5 to 10ish years. Yeah.
Hey, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my God. So, all right, some of the more impressive things that I would do, things that people will say that seem to fit my voice, or that I've done enough that it's just like, okay, here's something safe for me to try to do, or some songs by the Smiths, for example.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Do some Nirvana, I guess would actually also be in there. Mm-hmm. Actually, quite a few things from grunge, I would say. Those are the things that was most focused on when I was coming of age, and so those are just firmly ingrained in my mind.
That's pretty awesome. I enjoy me some Mariah Carey.
Oh, nice. All right, yeah.
I love old Mariah Carey. Old Mariah Carey. So like
Emotion.
Yes. Emotion, Heartbreaker, Hero. Butterfly. Well, that's kind of later, but
Yeah.
I love Mariah Carey. Janet Jackson. I like me some Janet Jackson.
That's something you don't really hear very much anymore, and that's a shame how that kind of fell off.
Yeah.
I used to be. I thought about that the other day. I used to be like a really big Janet Jackson fan when I was in high school and so forth, around the Rhythm Nation era.
Oh,
And
yeah.
stuff that doesn't really that's stuff that doesn't really come up at karaoke very much at all.
Really? Should bring it back.
Yeah.
We'll have to start karaokeing. Have you guys been karaokeing like the troupe?
A few of us did anyway. We started to do that a lot more. We should add you to the group, so if it comes up again ever.
Ever.
Like a little Facebook group for it.
Yeah.
That certainly fell off around around March, and I don't know how much. I guess you probably wouldn't have been following. I happen to know the owner of probably one of the bigger company, or I suppose the biggest company in Columbus that does karaoke.
Yeah.
I remember going to his parties decades ago, back when he was just had like a little karaoke machine in his basement. So he's been doing this, and my wife, Marianne, actually works for the company now. She's actually hosted trivia, and she's hosted karaoke out at places before. One of the things that I've been seeing happen since the lockdown happened, there were all the bars were slowly being reopened.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly might not be the right word for it, but you see what I'm saying. There was for the people playing along at home, there was a point at which they were closed, and then there was a point at which they were opened, and they had to follow certain regulations. Karaoke and trivia were activities for a while. Even once the bars were open, those were things that they were saying, you can't do this there because they're high-risk activities. Apparently singing is one of the most dangerous things that you can do in public to spread the virus, because of all the raising your voice and spitting and just just projecting it into the room. So the guideline they have to follow is that people singing have to wear masks while they're doing it.
Wow.
Which, when you first think of it, that's my first reaction was, what? That would take the fun out of it, wouldn't it? I don't know. I mean, but I've seen a couple of demonstrations, and apparently it is possible, but I think it really depends on what kind of mask you're wearing.
Well, folks, it looks like Keith is gone. His computer bit the dust. He will not be able to finish out this awesome interview that we were doing. My last question was, Keith, what's your strategy if the zombie apocalypse will happen or would happen? So think about it, people. What is your plan if the zombie apocalypse would happen? See you later.
It's All Been Done Radio Hour number 251. Meet the Cast number 35, When Wendy Met Keith. Starred Wendy Parks and Keith Jackson. Please check out our website, it's allbeendoneradiohour.com, and don't forget to support us at patreon.com/IABD. Have a great week. It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?